do you choose between Chivanu, which is seen to, as he put it, Christianity or modern life? So I recently watched a conversation by Penuel Mlotshwa, the Black Pen, Penuel Mlotshwa. This video is inspired by that conversation that Penuel had. It is a conversation where he framed a question that many Africans are quietly wrestling with. And they might not speak about it. Some people in some corners are really opening up and speaking about it. But the question is, do you choose between Chivanu, which is seen to, as he put it, in isiZulu, but me, Shona man, Chivanu is what we call it, Christianity or modern life? So at first, I know that it might look like a simple choice to make, but the more I sat with this question, the more I realized that maybe the problem is not what we choose, but how we understand what we are choosing. Sit with me here, because for many of us, we didn't grow up choosing. We inherited systems. We inherited culture, religion, and now modern life. Because most people born free, even in the Zimbabwean context or in South African context, are like the grown-ups of today. People born in the 90s, people born in the 80s are the people that are like grown-ups right now. So by that time, a lot of things changed. A lot of things when it comes to religion, culture, and beliefs, they changed. So somewhere along the way of all these getting intertwined, or people choosing as they grow up to get out of certain beliefs and hold on to certain beliefs and worship a certain way, these systems, they start to overlap. And even at times contradict each other. So just okay, let me just say this. This video is a different kind of video from me, because it's not a lecture, it's not conclusion, it's rather perspective, a reflection. And I'm going to explore this conversation from a Shona context, since this is Context Matters with Tino. Let's talk about this. So in the Shona culture, which is, like, I would say my main culture, though I am like in a mix of cultures from where I come from, but let's put it this way. In the Shona culture, Chivanu is not just a tradition. It's a belief system. It's a structured way of life. And at its core, it recognizes a higher power, Mwari, Msikavanu, creator of humans. You can simplify it like that. So this idea that Africans had no concept of God before Christianity is simply not accurate. So let me put it like in a story, like how Penuel had put it, like from his conversation. He had said that he had a conversation with Euphonic, one of the artists in South Africa, like one of the greatest artists in Africa, in South Africa and Africa as a whole, if I am to be honest. In this conversation, I think it happened on one of the channels that he works with, Convo, and I didn't get to watch that video, but if you want, I'll put the link in the description. But the specific video that I'm speaking of right now, he took that concept of lobola and how the boy meets girl, and when does the boy and girl become a married couple. So that is the frame that he took, and I'm also going to take in that framing, but I'm going to say it like I'm going to speak about this, like I said, in a Shona context. So before I go on a ramble about that, if you want to watch that video from Penuel, you can see the link in the description. Please watch his videos. I'm just going to speak from my own perspective according to my culture and where I come from. So firstly, I'll move from calling it lobola, which I see a lot of Shona people, they now like want to call it lobola, and I think, but to be honest, but to be actual Shona, it is Roora. The irony of it that I'm trying to correct people from saying Shona things in a different way, but I am here on a YouTube channel, Shona Men, speaking in English. So do with that as you want. So talking about Roora, because this is where culture becomes practical. Roora is not just payment. It is a process of union between families, from boy meets girl to the process of kushonongorwa. So this kushonongorwa, let me put it back from boy meets girl. Okay, so now what happens is, in our culture, in Shona culture, if a boy meets a girl and boy likes a girl, the boy has to go and speak to his family, his uncles, and his male figure who's closer to him in age, like maybe older brother or younger uncle, and then speaks to that person and say, hey, you know what, I have decided that I like this girl, and I want to marry this girl. So the uncle will have to now do diligence, and to do due diligence to speak to the person who is a representative of that girl's family, and then they'll speak about that and then find out if the girl is actually not spoken for. So when they do that, that's when we get to Roora negotiations, and then the negotiations are done, and then the day gets set where people have to go and pay Roora in cows, in money, in groceries and stuff like that. All that together creates that Roora. And now in these modern days, there is a whole thing that has been done with Roora these days, like they do like a whole ceremony with dress code and whatever. But anyway, speaking of that, going back to the topic of this video. So now what happens is, after the Roora has been paid and the agreement has been done, and as Penuel said, also we also do the same way, whereby we do not have to pay everything in full. You have to leave something. Like for me personally, my father left $2 from his Roora that he paid to my mother in the early 90s. So at that time, that $2 was that token that they have to hold back. In the Shona, there's a Shona saying that mukwasha mukuyu hauperi kujigiwa. Like the groom is like a tree that always grows. Like mukuyu is a tree that doesn't stop. It's a baobab tree, and also it has different kinds of things that you can eat from it. You can eat the fruit itself. You can eat the leaves from it. But that is the saying. That is a popular saying in Shona. You can correct me if I'm quoting that wrong. But now, when you leave that certain amount of money behind, and then that now helps you and the family to keep that relationship, whereby they say, okay, you did not buy our child, so which means that we can keep getting something from you. Or when we are slaughtering a cow, or when we're doing ceremonies as a family, funerals and everything, we will now call you to come and say, hey, you must come touch here, you must come and do this, you must come and help us with some things that as a family we are busy with. So now, when that has been done, as I go back to the Roora, as Roora has been paid, we will now have the girl's family. Now I'm saying like I'm talking to someone personally. The girl's family, which is the bride's family, they will now have a representative, a female representative, tete, an aunt, who will now be accompanying the bride to the groom's house. So they will just rock up at the house, and then she sits outside of the house, and then there is a process called kushonongorwa, which is now where that process where she comes and then she walks a few steps and then somebody has to take out money and do something, like she would be walking a few steps and then she'll like, oh, I'm tired, and then she sits and then she'll be covered herself, and then she'll only open her face, cover the face. She'll only open her face when a certain amount that she wants has been reached, because she'll be like having told by the aunt or whoever is a representative that brought her there to that home, tell her that, okay, this is where we are, this is how much it is, and then she will now get to a time where she'll open a veil, remove the veil, and then she gets into the yard, and then there will be the whole few days where she'll wake up in the morning and then she'll clean the yard, and then she will boil water for the people in the family, but you can't just use that water without paying her something. You pay her something and then you can take the water, you can go bath and stuff like that. So that is the whole process of Shona. So this ceremony itself is what used to establish a woman as a wife. When that is done and then we accept, we say, okay, we have received this. I'm sure there's more that had happened after that, and there's more that happens on that, like when it comes to officially saying, okay, now I have a wife, like honeymoon kind of thing that they would have to do, the man and the woman. So after that, this was, so before, this was like a whole thing that the community and everybody would know that, okay, we have witnessed that this one now is married to this one. So that is the process of Roora in Shona to Shona, where you are there. And then we something happened there that I'm using my phone to record these videos, so I forgot to put do not disturb, so somebody tried to send a message or whatever, so it probably just disturbed a lot there. I hope the video itself was not affected by this. So we move forward to the other part. So things do not work the way that we always plan. Things are not always perfect. So what will happen now is, if maybe, for instance, the man cannot afford Roora, or the couple already has a child that they had in wedlock, or the relationship moved faster than tradition allows, or than how the families would allow, especially when it comes to the bride's family. They might even be ready. You might be ready as a man to pay lobola, but to pay Roora, but the family of the girl says, no, she's too young, you cannot do that. But she is at the age of consent, and then she consents and says, okay, you know what, I want to be with you. And then we move fast, and then now after you move fast, you take the child without the permission, then now she's your wife. And then now what will have to happen is kuripa, which is now you're paying the damages and show that respect that you made a mistake and you want that to be corrected. So in that also, there is another one called Msengabere, which I think I mixed up there when I say that when you cannot, when they are not accepting Roora, this is what you have to do. So if they cannot accept Roora, and then there will be Msengabere, where you just have to take without them giving you and say, okay, we have received Roora and it's fine. But if they do not want to accept it, Msengabere, you take your wife, then later on still you have to pay the kuripa. You have kuripa, which is paying for those damages that you have made that mistake, and you need to fix it up. And then now you come back, and then if there's a child, something that can soften the family's hearts, can say, okay, you know what, let's soften our hearts, let's now accept, because now there's a child involved, and we want to also, like for instance, the mother will be like, oh, okay, now I wanna have a relationship with my grandchild, I'm not gonna do this. And then soften the father and say, okay, you know what, you know that you wanted Roora, or you wanted your child to grow to a certain age, or you wanted your child to finish university, whatever it is, but now this is the reality of it, so let's now accept them in the family. And then you come, then you pay kuripa, like you have now to pay the damages first before we can speak about Roora, and then that part gets done. So now that is not a random tradition. there are systems of accountability where you have to be held accountable for what you have done and restore peace and order between the families. So now we go back to how things are getting complicated now because of this traditional beliefs, modern life, and legal system, which is the Western thing, and the Western marriage, which is accepted also in the Christianity. Now here is where things get complicated, because today we are not only dealing with one, we are dealing with Christianity, modern legal systems, Western marriage structures, and they don't always align. There's always a way things do not align. Like, for instance, under the Marriage Act of 2022, Roora is not required for a marriage to be legally valid in Zimbabwe. What matters is consent, age, and the registration. So legally, marriage has been simplified, but culturally, it has not. And that creates tension, because now we must ask, is culture being preserved or slowly replaced? So we are not only going to talk about one thing. Now we have to talk about the white wedding, which is acceptable in the Christian and also in mostly in the legally. Yes, I would say it that way. So as a structure, it is European origins, and these origins were far before, have been there before Christianity even itself came into Europe. So at a later stage, Europeans absorbed that into Christianity, and now it is often treated as the real marriage. I can put that in quotes if my fingers can allow me. It's often treated as the real marriage, in quotes. Even when Roora has already been done, they still say, okay, you have now to do that white wedding so that we can now say you have been married. And this actually happens even in the churches, where you have paid your Roora, but at the end of the day, the church is saying, nope, we do not recognize that as the finished thing. You have to do now the finished thing, which is the white wedding. That is what now completes it. So the question becomes, why does one system appear to validate the other and not the other way around too? Because yes, I know that in some churches they say, okay, first you have to pay your order so that you can be able to get into this union, so that you can be able to accept to join you in holy matrimony. But that is not that is not the same in all churches. That is not the same. In some churches, they would be fine with you just coming and say, okay, we want to do this, and then you do it with consent, and then they're done with that. And even in points where, in some places where the family did not want to accept Roora, where we would be having Musengabere, now they are accepting you to get married in the church without that. So I'm not speaking of one church. I just want to say that as a disclaimer, because I know a lot of people are going to say, but no, it doesn't happen in my church. It's untrue in my church. There are churches that are accepting to join you under holy matrimony without paying Roora. So just to have that disclaimer. So going back to Penuel, here is where I differ slightly from what Penuel says, because Penuel says something that was so interesting, that the title, I think it was the title or the thumbnail of the video, where he says that you are choosing multiple gods, or you are worshipping multiple gods by this. Because I do not believe that we are choosing between two different gods or between three different gods. I believe we are dealing with different interpretations of the same God. But the systems built around those interpretations can clash. That is the truth. they can clash. And then there's modern life, because today people marry later, many already have children, women have careers and independence, as compared to back in the days where women would just be raised to be housewives. And some relationships don't follow traditional timelines. So the question becomes, are we applying old systems to new realities without fully understanding either? Take something like virginity, a very sensitive subject. Traditionally, it symbolized purity, both culturally and religiously, but today, we must ask, is that standard still being applied consistently or selectively? And are we addressing accountability equally? Because even in Chivanu, there is kuripa. Men are not exempt. So it's not only that a woman has to keep purity, because yes, in the olden days of culture, only a woman's purity is what could be checked. So that is the reason why now it was easy for them to now say, okay, you have to hold on to that, because there are people who have got ways of checking that. But for a man, it's not easy. There's no ways that you can check if a man is still pure. So now there is that part where kuripa, which is now you have to pay those damages if you have broken another child's virginity. So that is now where men are not exempt in that, because now it is the responsibility between the two of you to make sure that that is maintained. So we move forward to another part, which is authority. Authority is very important, because in the past, marriage disputes were handled by families, elders, chiefs. Today, the authority has shifted to pastors, courts, the legal system. So we must ask, who now defines marriage? Culture, religion, or the state? This is in the African context, I would say. So I know that I pose a lot of questions myself, and I never answer most of the questions because I want to keep it in context and I want to provoke people to talk about these subjects. But personally, I believe this is where we need to be honest, especially for men. Before you build a family, you need to understand, what do you actually believe? Because if you don't, you will mix systems, and eventually those systems will clash. So in closing, I would like to say that this is not about choosing a side. It's not about saying, no, you choose Christianity, or you choose ATR, which is the African traditional religion, or you choose the modern life, as Penuel had put it himself, that he chooses modern life. It is about understanding, because most of us are not arguing about God. We are arguing about how to approach him, which this is for everybody. And this also applies in other different aspects of life, that if I am to go into each and every one of them, this video will go like longer than this. This is going to be like one of the longest videos that I have ever released, because I really want to release this video in its entirety. I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to do heavy edits. Just going to leave it as it is. I hope this conversation gets you thinking. If this conversation gets you thinking, share it with somebody else who appreciates context, who would want to talk about some certain topics, because this is a matter of context with Tino. Thank you for watching. Peace.